Good morning. Pursuant to KRS 61.826 and OAG 20-05, the state of emergency regarding threats to public health presented by the novel coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic and existing municipal order, this meeting of the Paris City Commission is conducted by video conference. All city commission meetings may be attended by the public by viewing the video conference at the city's Facebook page online, Facebook Live. Be found by going to https://www.facebook.com/City of Paris KY. It is 9 a.m., Mayor.
Thank you, Darren. Need to call the meeting to order. Everyone please stand. Pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Everyone silence their cell phones, please. Ms. Morton, would you have a roll call?
Commissioner Galbraith?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts? Here. Commissioner Brooks?
Here.
Mayor Plummer?
Here.
Show that Commissioner Gibson is not in attendance.
We do have a quorum. First item of business this morning is the approval of minutes from the regular meeting of January the 26th, 2021. Mayor, Commission, these have previously been distributed electronically for your review, and at your pleasure, we will entertain a motion. Have a motion for approval. Is there a second? I have a second. Any questions, comments, additions, deletions, or corrections? A motion by Brooks and a second by Roberts. Roll call this morning.
Commissioner Gibson?
Here.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Here.
Move on to our old business action items. First this morning is presentation. We have some folks here representing our audit firm, Frank Foley & Kinley, and Mr. Moss, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. I'm here to present the June 30th, 2020 audit for you all. So I put together a slideshow here to go over some of the numbers so we can kind of look at those a little more on a higher view. There's 60 pages or so in here in the report, so we can hit the highlights, and then we can talk about a few additional items in the report as well. So Aaron, if you'll flip to the first slide here, this is your statement of net position, and if you flip through to the audit, this is going to be page 17. This is where these numbers are coming from.
I'll keep that.
So this is just showing your total assets, your total liabilities, and then your equity in the city compared over the last 3 years. So in looking at the slide will reflect, as you'll see, the numbers are growing. So your total assets are up to now 34 million. That was an increase of over 4 million. So cash increased pretty significantly. Receivables increased, specifically in the general fund, as well as you all invested quite a bit in new assets over the course of fiscal year 2020. The liabilities also increased. The big liability that increased was your pension liability, which we'll touch on here in a minute. You also did finance some of the fire trucks in the general fund. So that did cause the liabilities to increase. Overall equity increased about $500,000, or your net position. Aaron, if you'll go to the next slide. This reflects your, over the last 3 years, the city's proportionate share of the net pension liability. This is for both hazardous and non-hazardous. And then what's called the OPEB liability. The OPEB liability is post-employment benefits for the retirees, essentially their health insurance. So there's 2 pots of money in the CERS fund. So you'll see here the net pension liability increased by $2.5 million. This is not a number that we come up with. It's not a number that you all come up with. It's a actuarial report that the state gives us. So you'll see there's some schedules in the back, showing the last 8 years of pension contributions. The city's always made 100% of what you're required to contribute. But you can also see that net pension liability growing over the course of 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, because it started out at 13 million, and it wasn't broken down as OPEB and net pension. At one time, the number was like $13 million total.
Well,
Now it's
yeah.
up- Now it's up to almost 22 million.
Right, there were 2 accounting standards that came out in consecutive years, that brought those liabilities on. So yes, it has grown. The OPEB liability, it decreased a little bit, and I can't really explain to you why that decreased. It's some of the actuarial figures that they did. But I think you will probably see that continue to increase. So the only thing the city can do is look at the contribution rates the state is projecting over the course of the next few years and budget accordingly on your wages that impact that. Moving on, this is governmental fund revenues. So you'll see governmental fund revenues total for the year was 9.6 million. This is your general fund and your road fund. The big things that increased over the course of the year, your license and permits, that's the big gray area, that's 6.7, almost 6.8 million. But also your intergovernmental revenues increased quite a bit. Part of that is some of the CARES funding that you all received. It was received a little bit after year end, but it was related to salaries before June 30th. The road fund also had another, I think about 150,000 for the bridge. So you did have some quite a bit of additional grants coming in over the course of the year that helped drive those revenues up. Aaron, if you'll go to the next slide. Additionally, you all did have quite a bit of additional expenditures. The thing that increased the most was capital outlay. You'll see that was 2.2 million. You had some of the fire trucks and some other equipment that was purchased. So you invested in assets. So it's not something that you had a lot more coming through. Community partners also increased because some of the coronavirus funds did go over to the EMS, which in turn was an outflow. So those were some of the drivers that increased. Debt service also increased over the course of the year. Just look to the next slide, please. These are your enterprise or your utility fund, business type funds. This is looking at the revenues. Revenues increased a little bit from the prior year, primarily related to electric services. The sanitation went down as Rumpke took over, those you did see a little bit uptick in the electric services. Water and sewer were fairly consistent with what they had been in the past, so pretty much where we expected them to be. If you'll flip to the next one. Oh, there, yeah. Here's the enterprise funds expenses. Those were down.
This is a revenue slide.
Oh,
There's the
There's the expense.
The other ones show revenue.
all right, so your expenses went up. I'm sorry. The expenses went up. Sorry here. Expenses went down due to the sanitation going down, but electric did go up. And then you're going to see the revenues. If you flip to the next one, they went down there. With the sanitation going down, your electric charges did go up. So overall, you're going to see in the final slide, there was a significant decrease in the business type or the utility fund. Some of that has to do with the measurement that you have. That pension liability that we talked about, when you have a big swing in the liability where it goes up, that's a non-cash flow expense. that's coming through on the utility fund. So, kind of like depreciation, it's something that's out of your control that's gonna happen. Overall positive cash flow in the utility fund though, if you look at the statement of cash flows, it was 21,000. So you're kind of right at a break even in the utility fund. The general fund did have those revenue increases, as we talked about. The CARES funding up quite a bit as well. So you did have experience a $930,000 increase in the governmental funds. So in the rest of the report, there's a lot in here, as I mentioned, specifically about the pension activity. I'm gonna skip over kind of all the notes, because there's a lot in there. They elaborate on those things, but I'm gonna jump back to the very last 3 pages in your report. This is the report, the additional report that we have to issue. I skipped over actually the opinion that we give you on the audit report. We've provided an unmodified opinion, meaning we believe the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. That's at the front of the report. But this is the other part that we issue. The rest of the report is really the city's. It's not ours as your auditors. We're just here to provide these letters to you all in conjunction with this. So these last 3 pages are your report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance. So we do quite a bit of testing over the course of the audit, compliance testing, make sure things are getting paid when they need to get paid. They are, but stuff like that, things are bid out properly. But we also look at the internal controls over financial reporting. So we do have a couple findings here. If you'll flip to the last page, page 60. This is a material weakness on internal control over financial reporting. Some of the timing differences in your accounts payable and your accrued liabilities were not getting reconciled throughout the year. They ended up getting reconciled as we completed the audit, but that's something that should be done on a monthly basis. That way you know what expenses have been incurred. Those need to be reconciled to the financial statements on a monthly basis. Then below that, there is a compliance finding. In the general fund, it went over the budget. The budget was amended. However, there were 2 issues that kind of created this. One was related to a payable for the EMS. Part of the CARES funding went to the EMS, so payable was booked. So that was about $100,000.
7,000.
Yeah, so that was not in the budget, and then in the amended budget, and then there was some of the financing related to the fire department, some of the vehicles, some of those were not accounted for as capital outflows. So those 2 areas went over budget. We did see that they got approved in the commission. I just think it was a function of when you all amended the budget, those were kind of neglected. It's not that you all did not approve them, it's just it wasn't incorporated in the budget like it should have been. Then we have one last thing to report to you all, and it's a separate letter here. This is really just for the commission. And this kind of goes over anything that we need to communicate to you all outside of the course of the audit. Any new accounting policies that needed to be adopted, we cover those in here. No new major accounting policies had to be adopted. If we had any difficulties in performing the audit, the main thing I want to cover are a few things towards the bottom, and it's under the other matters on page 2. And we consider this more of a value added to you all. It's not a major finding or anything. It's just how to help the city move forward and improve controls or suggestions we have moving forward. So that's the way what we're considering these. So under this other matters section, there's about 4 things that I want to cover here. The first thing is just due to the related to the timing of the audit. We started November 2nd on our field work. Things were not quite fully adjusted as they needed to be. This just lets you know, we look at material adjustments, what's not material, but we try to correct everything that we come across. And working with Brad, I think there were 38 adjustments that ended up getting posted to the financial statements, and they have a listing of those. So it's just one of those things. I know the coronavirus has kind of pushed everything back, and we're still feeling the impacts of it. We're going to be doing audits in the tax season, I know. So we were a little delayed. That's why this is getting issued right now. The second thing that we suggest is developing more of a formalized journal entry process. This is one thing we always suggest to people is to keep a folder of all non-standardized journal entries in a folder and have a formalized approval process. So Brad is aware of everything that's getting posted, and everything's able to be documented in a centralized folder. So I mean, things are getting posted. It's not always formalized in a centralized location. So we think that could be done a little better.
Just a second.
Yes, sir.
Who's making journal entries now?
It depends, but Brad and Debbie.
Just, I mean, it's restricted to a limited
Yes,
number.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna say 1 or 2 people.
Right.
Okay.
And Debbie has access to make journal entries as well too.
Okay, so we basically you and Debbie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just more of a documentation thing, keeping them in a file throughout the year. The third item is the bank reconciliations. I know Stan's getting those to him directly now, from what I understand. So this is more on the reconciliation side, making sure those reconciliations are getting performed. I know Stephanie reviews them and Darren reviews them on the utility side, but one thing that would like to see is initials and dates when those get reviewed, just so we can see that just documentation that we can see that they are getting reviewed, proof that it was reviewed. If not, we're kind of just at your word, and it's just better to
But there's
leave a
difference-
trail.
There's a difference between review and reconciliation. I mean.
Right, you're looking at the bank statements, making
Yeah,
sure nothing weird is in there.
It looks out of line, but as far as ever seeing a reconciliation, no.
Right.
And that, that's it, that's in a hell of a lot more detail.
Well, yeah, the bank reconciliation makes sure your accounting records are reconciled to the bank statement, yes, sir. And then the last thing that we were recommending is just an additional review of the payroll tax returns. I know Aaron has been doing those for a long time, and it's just something that anytime somebody prepares something, it's always good for somebody else to review them. Just you all identify somebody to be the reviewer of those, making sure they're getting filed properly and nothing looks unusual. So, again, those are just suggestions for you all to strengthen your reporting throughout the year. So, if you all have any questions, again, I skipped over the audit opinion at the beginning, but it was a clean audit opinion, and I think the numbers look pretty good. So,
Any questions of Andy?
I got some stuff down, I got just a couple of
Yes,
questions
sir.
down in the weeds. and-
Sure.
But no, we'll do it, I'll call it. But I mean, I just gotta,
all right, call me anytime.
for these numbers, I just wanna understand where the numbers came together.
Well, if you're reading those pension footnotes, you're.
No. No. Those pension footnotes are like 25 pages. Just
Stan,
one
that's my
document.
job, and I don't even wanna read those footnotes.
Crazy, but anyway. single household.
Okay, Andy?
So, you've heard the presentation, from the auditors. Is there a motion to accept the audit as presented? Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll say.
Mr. Galbraith seconds, any questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Morton, would you have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gibson,
I say here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Are you good to say no?
Yes,
Commissioner
ma'am.
Roberts, Commissioner Brooks, Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Audit passes.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, you all have a great day.
All right, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Move on to our next item under old business action items. This is an update. I've had a conversation with Judge Executive Williams. The 15th at 9 a.m. Is the date for the joint meeting with Bourbon County Fiscal Court to hear presentations from those agencies that both bodies traditionally get requests for funding. No decision we made at that meeting, but it is for presentation purposes and allows for us to consolidate. That meeting will be held at the historic courthouse to allow for social distancing. So we will send out a calendar invite on that. My conversation with the judge last week, we confirmed that March 15th at 9 a.m. The next item under old business action items is found in your packet beginning on page 75. This is financing of the police vehicle purchases. If you recall, at the last meeting, we authorized me to secure some quotes and information related to financing of the almost $500,000 cost to finance the purchase of the police department vehicles, with that remaining balance of the almost 500 coming out of current budgeted dollars. And so we received 3 responses, as are outlined in the memo. We did ask for a 2-year rate and a 3-year rate, and we did ask for information regarding any fees or closing costs or refinancing fees and such. And so you'll see that Traditional Bank, Kentucky Bank, and Republic Bank, and this is the first time in my tenure that Republic Bank has actually responded to an inquiry. We did send out a number of requests to other financial institutions in the area that did respond. And so you can kind of see the 2-year and the 3-year, both Traditional and Kentucky offer flexible payment plans to include monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, and annual. Republic Bank's was based on a monthly. You'll also notice in the documentation that there were no fees or charges from Kentucky or Traditional, but Republic did have a $200 fee and a $3,000 closing cost as part of their quote. Information has been presented for your review, and also discussion and determination of how you would like to proceed on this matter.
I'd like to ask Brad, what do you recommend as the best procedure as far as our current financial situation?
Well, I'd say with the general fund and where we're at on a cash position, I think Traditional, actually Kentucky Bank with the 2-year rate. I know Darren, you and I haven't really kind of looked at the overall budget implications on that part of it, but I mean, we've got the cash backing. We're kind of getting a really low, cheap rate as it is right now. I think we're only earning maybe 0.4% on the savings as it is. So either one of those, doing the 2 or the 3-year, but we can afford to do the 2-year rate as well, 2-year payoff.
I would, add to that is looking at between the difference there of 0.1%, and while we do have the current financials, the previous financing was based on a 3-year estimation. So as we look forward, just keep that in mind that we were looking at previously a 3-year payoff, and so budgeting of that, either one of them, I mean, you're talking, what, maybe $4,000 or $5,000 difference between over 1 year versus the second. If my calculation's correct there, Commissioner Galbraith, I know he's got his calculator out. I think the 2 year, you're talking to probably about 405,000 versus a 3 year of close to 210,000 total.
And just talking with the chief there, that, you know, I guess the plan, we've been trying to get back onto the 3-year rotation of, you know, purchasing, you know, bulk of vehicles every 3 years, and to probably keep something like that consistent would be good to extend out to the 3 years, so we just kind of have that, like you said, maybe 200,000 a year kind of fixed that we're going out and paying for cars on.
Is there a down payment at Kentucky Bank? Others you have.
Well,
down
no,
there. Okay.
but the Kentucky Bank was based, they just made the notation that, and they all understood, but they did make a notation on theirs that they confirmed the understanding that we would be financing the balance.
Okay.
And so I did confirm that with Brandon Eason, that did not mean that an additional $95,000 would have to be down paid, and so it would be 303, that we were actually financing the full 400, but that was based on the understanding that the actual total cost to purchase was over that, and the city did have the cash to finance that. Thank you for that question.
What is the savings if we go ahead and do Kentucky Bank 2 years and then just have a year off, not have payments until we start that 3rd year?
I think in rough estimates of about $5,000 of savings, total savings between the two.
If that's the case, I would think that would be the best option.
Well,
Staying.
Penalties for early payout.
No penalties.
None. Why don't you do 3 and pay it off in 2?
Yeah,
Well,
that
based
was
on-
my thought is,
Yeah.
again, it would be a 3-year commitment. If we could pay it off in 2, we would. But if we try to do it 2 years, then if we're trying to pay 400,000 off in 2 years, then I don't say his, but police department's budget goes to 200,000 for this group plus the 100 that he's
For the final
already doing
three, so
for
that's-
that. So now your budget goes up to 300,000
For just
versus 200,000.
So that money has to come from somewhere.
So it has to come from someplace.
Okay.
So, pay me now or pay me later, but it's gonna come from someplace.
So under that scenario, the current, and everything else remaining the same in the budget, that means that currently the police department budget, which sits about 2.8, that if you did two year, that budget would go to almost $3 million.
Stay consistent.
But everything else would have to stay the same, and then you would be looking, as you pointed out, an additional $100,000 somewhere.
It's gotta come from someplace, and gotta remember, because the audit points out here that I think 86 or 87% of the current budget out of police and or fire, one or the other, I forget which one. One of them is 86% for salary, benefits, and retirement. So it doesn't make any difference. So there's not a whole lot of leeway. If you got it in round numbers, you got a $3 million budget, you got 86% of $3 million already in salary, benefits, and retirement. You don't have a lot of leeway there to. Yeah, and we can only assume at this point that, we can only, to me, we can only assume at this point that everything that we're gonna project, be conservative, we're gonna project it's gonna be a flat line. Even though there are some things that are positive out there, it's still on the come, so we can't bank on, personally, I never bank on what's coming. I wanna know exactly what we got today. That's just me. Right. I'm one vote. Anyway, moving right along.
So, hearing Brad's discussion, and I know maybe you asked Brad about his thing. My recommendation, what's worth would be to consider the 3-year rate traditional bank.
At a rate of 1.45.
And knowing that if finances allow for early payoff, there's no penalty, be aggressive with that if other opportunities come along where that we see that, financing, financial, does increase unexpectedly. You always have that option to pay off. But, so when I ran the numbers, I think about $5,000 or $6,000 difference in interest between the 2 and the 3 year. Either one of these rates, actually, under standard, all 3 of the rates would be, very, 5 years ago, you wouldn't be seeing those type of rates. So,
Yeah.
So again, it's if you recall that your previous motion in relationship to the purchase of the vehicles as outlined was contingent upon securing financing. So this will be the second part of that proposal. So is there a pleasure of the commission to make a motion?
I move then that we accept the proposal from a traditional bank for a 3-year rate of 1.45 to finance the approximately $400,000 for the police vehicles.
There's a motion by Commissioner Galbraith. Is there a second? Mayor Plummer seconds. Any additional questions or comments? Discussion?
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts, I can't read.
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks? Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. We'll move on to our next item. It's just an update. As you recall that did authorize us, or the mayor, to execute a no-cost contract with Kentucky League of Cities for some strategic planning. We've continued that conversation with Tad Long and Bobby Bryant in the Community Economic Development Services branch of Kentucky League of Cities. And now we're just in the process of looking at some dates that we can get those first initial meetings set up. So, status update on that. I answer any questions that my commission may have on that matter. Another update is related to the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet's 2nd Street Arm Mass project. Previous commission authorized the city to work with Kentucky Transportation Cabinet at the intersection of 2nd and Main. That is where currently a transition from our more decorative streetlight poles, stoplight signal poles, return to the other. There is some spaghetti nest of wires that have been rerouted, and the anticipation was that that project would have moved forward this past fall. Due to COVID, that project now is looking to be summer to possibly July or August. Our commitment to that was in the neighborhood of $40,000 to buy, and then Kentucky Transportation Cabinet will actually do the installation partnership there. Clean up that intersection. It makes it a little more safer as it increases sight lines distance and gives a little more uniformity of the look through our sort of downtown district. So any questions in regards to that? Move on to our next item, West Side Neighborhood. It's an update, and I know Ms. Lacey is here this morning, and I know we have a meeting scheduled. Do you want to speak to that, Andrea?
Yeah, sure. Good morning, everyone. So this evening is the West Side Neighborhood Meeting. We've been holding quarterly meetings since the neighborhood plan was presented to the community. It is via GoToMeeting. There's a variety of different ways you can access the link to it. On our website, bourboncountyplanning.com has the meeting information and the link. Facebook on Bourbon County Joint Planning Office, that also has the link. So please join if you're able to this evening. We're going to have a variety of different updates presented. I'm thrilled that Andrea Brown's going to join us to talk to the neighborhood members about vaccination. So it really gives a good opportunity to just provide some information to the neighborhood members. The goal of this meeting tonight is actually handing over the baton to the neighborhood to help implement the plan. So there's 3 committees that were developed as part of the planning process. Arts and recreation, housing, safety and infrastructure, and economic and workforce development. So tonight, we're gonna be asking for volunteers to chair these various committees. And at which point, the baton will be handed over. The planning office and of course the municipality will continue to provide support to the neighborhood, but it's really, the point of empowerment of the neighborhood to take the plan and move forward with it. So please join us. And one last thing, I am gonna be looking at some other project ideas for the upcoming fiscal year, to continue doing some long-range planning specifically for that neighborhood. So stay tuned for some of those ideas. Are there any questions?
That was a
6:30.
6.
It's at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah.
Andrew, are you staying or you leaving?
I'm staying.
Okay, I was gonna bring up our code portion, we can talk later.
All right, so we'll move on to our next item, mineral business action item, and the update from Mr. Bowman on the T-Mobile tower lease.
So I believe you all should have seen the email from T-Mobile. Happy to report that after the meeting last time, we did get an email from them agreeing to the major terms. They redlined back some small items. I'm comfortable with all that. You all. They go through about 5 layers of review. You may have seen in that email. It seems like we're on track because we got an email from yesterday or Friday. That had already passed one more. We're on track with them. And then with AT&T, I'd gotten an update. Representative, and he had actually asked them for an update last week and hadn't gotten a response. As far as I know,
Any question of Mr. Bowman on the update in relationship to those tower leases? Additional action this morning, Brian? Thank you. And then next is Columbia Gas request for easement and staging update. Mr. Bowman?
So attempted to make insertions as we had talked about last time. This is, kind of our typical form contract that the city has with vendors, particularly those that are going to be on public property. That's the way that they handle things. I think I understand from Mr. Withrow, they're anticipating this project to be at least a year. And so those dates in here, I'm understood flexible because we don't yet really know what the station is. But I guess the important part to this is really on the second page in that paragraph 7, which is you're seeking for them to agree to have a pre-construction meeting with the city and the public. And I understand they've already really sort of done that with the city representatives. I think Smith and just to get an idea as to what the project would be. But then just for them to designate a live person to talk to, and that's just I'm assuming they'll have a fence there to fence off their equipment that's going to be there over the course of the year. So just a sign hanging there that as people have questions, they can call and talk. And also that if any subcontractor is there, or they're going to run in the scene, that person would be available, because it wouldn't be fair to Columbia Gas for them to designate somebody. They're not going to have somebody on site because they won't be able to answer any questions that anyone have. And then D is pretty simple enough, and I know that Columbia Gas recently has been very attentive, and I'm sure that would continue, but just that if there's a public meeting or that you all have, and we ask them to come, that they will respond to that request, again, just to issues that happen. Then paragraph E might look odd, but that's very typical. If you go back years and years and years ago, we had some issues, construction project here at City Hall, lots of problems. So that's pretty standard in the contracts that the city has. That's, if somebody's falling short of meeting their commitments under this, then we have a conversation and we sit down and try to work it out. And the key to all this is gonna be communication. That'll help all the citizens who are living there or those who may be driving through. Really, Mr. Smith and others at the city. So this is not yet, I wanted to bring this to you first to see if it met your favor, if you had any changes to it. Yeah, and then or I will get in touch. Yes, and send this to them.
Any questions of Mr. Bowman on this matter?
That's just covering the whole area, side to side, right?
Well, so I think
The right there with Littleton, but I don't.
it should cover their whole project.
Yeah.
Staging areas and.
So, but this project, because we've had some phone calls and some Merritt's a good point, is that this is a separate project from the standard project that is going on, that they are moving into the west side as part of their total rehab. This allows for that additional work to go on with the boring, underneath and coming across that lot. And so this is specific to, on this one, is to that contract for that easement, to be able to do that. But it all ties into the larger project that they're doing in that area and around.
Okay.
So what, do you need?
No, I'll take it to Columbia Gas and.
Do we want to approve it contingent upon, Columbia Gas signing it, or?
Do you want to wait till the next, that last?
Do that, and I'll-
And it's the pleasure of this body, you could go ahead and contingent upon no changes, to allow the city attorney and the mayor to execute, contract, prior to, or do you want to hold it, bring it back in the next meeting for that decision to be made? So it's,
Contract if they.
a motion by Commissioner
That's
Gibson.
that's the opposite of what she said.
Oh,
Yeah, let them sign.
and then bring it back at the next meeting? Okay. Not in the interim, okay. So then we'll just hold it over to the next meeting. Thank you. Move on to new business action items. We're going to reverse A and B. Prior to the meeting, the mayor asked for us to reverse those two items and to allow for us to have some discussion. And I understand Commissioner Roberts had electronic correspondence with the mayor and the members of the commission in regards to just getting a better understanding of the makeup of boards and committees. And so, Commissioner Roberts, I'll turn it over to you.
I was just doing some research on different cities and what they're doing, so, the mayor and I had discussed the different boards and committees and how we have some vacancies and things like that right now. So, right now, we just asked for a resume, but I found a form on, the city of Covington. And it was just a form, it basically is like a board and commission application. And I think I really liked it, so I just wanted to bring it to you all to see how you felt about it. And also, the more you think about it, it makes us kind of hold ourselves accountable along with the actual individuals that are coming on our boards and committees. So I just wanted you all to take a look at the application, and then whatever changes we need to be made to fit our city, we will do those at the next meeting, or, because the application could go on the website along with, and it says on the back of here too, if they want to actually submit a resume, they can. But I just think it's a better way to kind of see who's wanting to come on the board, and also kind of hold ourselves accountable also. Do y'all have any questions, or we can actually just look at this and you make changes and then we can bring it back next time for the sake of time?
The one thing that I did notice about Covington, and thank you for the research on that, is that they do have a party affiliation section on that. And I don't know that we have any boards or commissions that we make appointments to that have that requirement. So I don't know that would be an E for this body.
Yeah, I don't think it would be, but so that would be one thing, that's why I said when we're looking at it, to just have everyone go over what they would like to have changed on it. And then I can work with Stephanie, or Mr. Jordan, you work with Stephanie, and we just kind of get it collected up.
The, any additional questions or comments on this?
I will add, I have a volunteer application, which we haven't done because of COVID, because we have a lot of volunteers, but, I may wanna kind of mesh those together a little bit, because there's some liability of these, if they're basically volunteering. So I'd like to see if we already have one in place for that, and kind of mesh those
Okay.
together.
Oh, that works. Thank you.
Holly and Angie, we've been going back and forth, and they come up with a lot of information that we need to get from these boards. So I guess I need to find out exactly what do we need. Do we tell who they need to get? They might recommend to me, or the board. We decide if we want to go with that person. Do they have the right to ask who they want? I mean, I'm just asking. I just want to verify, so.
You mean like a board, the city holds an appointment?
Yeah,
You can't.
Chamber of Commerce says, hey, I'd like to have, whatever. Well, let's get back to the citizen part of it. Assign certain commissioners to certain boards, the ad hoc boards, I mean,
Right.
not the ad, yeah. So, I just need to find out, is it all up to me to pick up
It is-
somebody?
it is
Get a
100
recommendation from them,
It's absolutely 100% within your discretion as
Right.
authority on who to nominate.
I understand,
And this board has to approve.
right, I understand.
It's not
And so.
required.
Huh?
It's not required that they advocate for who they want.
No, I understand that.
You're in no way bound by that.
Right, yeah, I agree with that. But if they may know these people better than I do, right, you know, they're asking now what qualifications.
Well, and that's when this comes in handy, is having
Yeah,
that
right.
kind of backstory on why a person thinks that they're gonna be good for that appointment.
Well, can I read it? Who are the chairs of each board? When does the board committee meet? Which that's okay. How many meetings does it take for a board member to miss before they step down? Do we need to know all this? I know there's in their bylaws. If a board committee has not met in a while, are they needed? Is our board committee training for all new board committee members? What exactly is each committee supposed to accomplish? And once the goals are met, does there still need to be a committee in place?
Well, they're all different, but the thing is, if you have a board that's not meeting within a year, if you've not met, is that board really needed? That's what the question was.
Yes.
So I'll, to answer that,
Okay.
yes and no. So we'll take the ethics board.
Mhm.
That's a standard, but that only meets if there's an ethical violation. And so
Okay.
that board would be a standing that this body appoints. But there was just.
Many of these boards were required by statute
Statute.
to exist.
Okay.
No, go
No.
ahead. That's where, yeah.
So some were required, like the ethics committee, you
Mhm.
have to have.
Right.
The Paris Pike
Overlay.
corridor, Paris Pike corridor commission. So by our local, we're required. The Section 8 Housing Authority, those aren't really city entities, but we have to have them. But like the old, dilapidated, look at Andrew for the name of that board that we created 10 years ago, right? Which was a special board that addressed black property, but then the statute changed, so that kind of.
Okay.
So there are some boards that can be calculated by this body. Some you have to have.
You have to have them. Okay.
That's one of the things we were talking about, though, when you look at some of these boards, what is their goal? Anytime I've ever been appointed, have a mission statement of what you're on there for, and we don't see those anywhere. Not what we were looking at.
Right.
And some of them look like they have not had appointees for years.
So-
Either that or the website just says it hasn't been up.
Well, and some of those boards that are listed on our website, and it's a good question and also for public education, aren't our boards. make appointments to those. But we, as Ms. Bowman said, we don't have, this body politic, the Board of
Right.
Commissioners, doesn't have say-so over that board and their meeting times or their bylaws and things like that. And so, I think we have an opportunity to clarify that on our website of which ones are local. But also, we did have, a board on there that, probably has been, fulfilled now by a new joint local agreement, and that was the, Trails,
Yeah, Trails and
Recreation Board.
Recreation.
And that was, understanding, was initially set up, to meet the requirements of a federal grant that the city had applied for years ago, and that was prior to the joint interlocal agreement for, the Parks and Recreation Board, which could, facilitate that, so definitely, so that one is one that we still have out there. But as we do our review internally, it doesn't look like there is still a required need on that one. But, so there's a kind of not a simple answer to that, is that there are different ones, but I do think that it gives us the opportunity to provide some more clarity, especially on our website, as to which ones are, we do make on it, Mayor, you mentioned the Housing Authority or the Section 8, in this body confirms that appointment, but again, we don't set their meeting schedules or their bylaws or their goals and objectives. Now, we did start something, it was a great idea by former Commissioner Alan Edwards, that we started a virtual academy to kind of update folks about that. And we're looking to revitalize that. We had hoped that we would be out of the ability of having, or the requirement to meet virtually, but I think that seems like that's going to continue, so we're going to look for the opportunity to have some of that information to where we would have, as we did at the last, or the first one that we did, Andrea did a great job of presenting a PowerPoint presentation and walk through, that body's, what they actually do, and so we can do that with our joint Parks and Rec, we can do that with our Housing Authority, but those as well, tourism, chamber, and allow them the opportunity to provide from their words, their leadership, that information.
When looking at different websites, the thing that struck me was the ones that actually have, okay, meeting is on this date, and not just the board members, but also a little bit of what they do, just a little blurb of what they do, and again, meeting time. Because that way, somebody from outside that's, interested, at least see that right there on the website. And there were some websites that had no information, obviously you'd have to call different entities to see, who you'd finally, ask those questions of.
Will it be confusing? On our city webpage, we got all the committees, we got the, city appointees. Can we put out to the side, maybe all the county appointees as well? And will that be confusing?
I think the more information you have on the website, the better for everybody.
Yeah, to the staff, to the ability to get updated information back to us and keep that up.
I think that'll be,
You could have in parentheses, county, not, or county.
doesn't name city, county,
Right.
whatever. I think it would help out a great
I do
deal.
too.
Do you think it's confusing if you have because some appointments are for citizens, like some are not, like in that E911 board. So if they're all kind of on one webpage, is that confusing as to what is a citizen appointment, what's not? And I wonder.
Could you have that parentheses or?
Sure.
Try to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Work on getting that information updated. See, and then we'll revise and refresh as needed, as that information comes in.
I think it's good to have transparency. Anyone looking, Because right now, when you look at our website, it's just all these, you know, blanks. And that just kind of looks like we're not really.
Other than Stephanie, who else could? put on
Well,
that?
well, actually, we work with our, internet provider to do those major upgrades. She does, some minor updates, Aaron
We
does some
just
updates,
send-
but
we
we
send-
usually send a ticket into VC3, with information, and they work.
They take very quick reaction?
Yeah, they're fast, they usually get it done within a day or two, just depends on how many changes we're making, if we're changing layout,
Right.
if they're changing layout, it takes longer, if you're just updating names, it's super easy.
Okay.
Layout takes developers, but they're very responsive.
And, you know, Aaron and Ms. Settles and myself are the three
Yeah.
primary that put it for that update.
Help myself, for qualifications, planning and zoning. They probably need to know about buildings and this and that and whatever. Unless I get information from them or a recommendation, how do I know? Who should I recommend, I guess? I see my problem, or?
Yes, yes.
Well, now you'll have the
Well, now you'll have an application.
to look at, yeah.
To see what, yeah.
Once they, yeah, if they fill them out,
Well, I
but the
think-
term limits sometimes expire, so.
Then accept them if they don't fill out.
Right.
Fill it out.
You fill it
Yes, I
out?
will.
or-
And Aaron, didn't you say something at the last meeting about, maybe we could advertise more, like Facebook, and that we're looking for people to.
And, yeah,
I mean, we can solicit, there's lots of opportunities to solicit from interested parties. The hard part is finding those interested parties.
Yes, yes.
And we've availed ourselves of those in the past, and about once a quarter, we do like a social media.
Well, and I
post
think
on it.
right now people aren't volunteering as much.
Right, right.
They're nervous about public meetings or
Meetings, yes.
boards, or I think so we're kind of suffering from a drought of volunteers as well. It's hard.
Thank you all for your patience.
Thank you.
I have three that I want to recommend, but we'll.
Well, no, I was gonna say, is there any more discussion on that citizen engagement in relationship to the boards and committees? Mayor, you've got a couple appointments that you.
So I might have to get your approval, might not, so. Need to submit the name of Clayton Brooks to serve on the Community Development Agency's, and it's expiration 8/6/30. He's taken Morgan Gilpy's place, or asking. I'd like to have him serve on that till June 30th of this year.
Per the mayor's recommendation, Mr. Clayton Brooks, to fill an unexpired term on that board, Section 8 board. It's the pleasure of this body.
What are his qualifications,
See,
as far as Section 8 goes?
yes, I'm just going with what their recommendation is. I know Clayton, you know.
Right.
So, but, that's what I need to find out.
They ask you to, for him.
They ask
That was a
you to pick him on
recommendation,
there.
yeah.
That came from them, so.
Yeah.
If they ask for it.
Right.
See, that's why, if they ask for him, they should know something about him,
Yes,
that
exactly.
person.
Okay.
I happen to
Didn't
know,
hear that part.
I know him real well, so I was thinking it's a good spot. A person to fill that spot. It's not. But there's others, but right now, I like to have Clayton fill.
Filling it to June 30th.
June 30th.
They're asking.
Right, and they're asking.
Yes.
So that's the mayor's recommendation. Is there a motion by the body to accept the mayor's recommendation to Clayton Brooks to that? Commissioner Roberts, is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Galvin, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Ms. Norton, do you have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gibson,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts, Commissioner Brooks, Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the other one I have is, I guess, Holly Gibson to replace Matt Carruth on the Chamber Board of Commerce, Chamber of Commerce Board. And, now he's got an expiration date of 3/31, of course, he's on the committee. So I don't know, what do you have, Well, you have an expiration date.
That,
It's on the committee.
the chamber switched its bylaws maybe 2 years ago to require an elected official, requested an elected official be chamber representative on that. And so since he is not a current sitting elected official, then I think it would be a current, the recommendation.
Recommendation, Holly Gibson to replace Matt Peru on the Chamber of Commerce Board.
So that's I guess a new term to expire 3/31.
Right.
That
4-year appointment.
I believe they set it up to be, well, actually, I don't know that they had or I thought they had set it up to roll the election cycle. So I would do 2-year term, but when they changed that, in the timeframe, it was about that March, because previous to that, now Chief Thomas and myself were the 2 appointees from the city, and the bylaws switched to have that to be allowed. One.
one would expire 3/31.
21 right now, 3/31/21.
But
Next month.
go ahead and want it for the remainder of, so 23, good for the full. So you can,
If it otherwise it'll be term limits, you don't.
for the current term of 31.
It makes it sound like a real date. 12/30/23.
That's the
So on the-
recommendation on that. Is there a motion to that effect? Commissioner Galbraith?
I'll move.
I'll second.
And Commissioner Roberts is the second. Commissioner Gibson to serve as the city's elected official on the chamber board, 12/31/20. Questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Galbraith,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Brooks, Mayor Plummer.
Yes.
Motion passes.
And the other one I have is Angela Roberts to replace Matt Peru on the Senior Citizens Committee. There is no expiration date according to the system. I'd like for her to serve on there along with me on the Senior Citizens Committee. I don't know what kind of do that. 12/31?
I would say if she follows through as an elected official. Or
12/31/23, expiration date.
Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second.
It's on the senior citizen?
Yes, senior
Okay.
citizen.
Just want to be clear on what it is.
For Commissioner Roberts to serve a term expiring 12/31/23. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gibson.
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Brooks, Mayor Plummer.
Yes. That's it,
Motion passes.
for the time being.
That's right.
Just, I guess,
Yep. Yeah.
and maybe we can, we can discuss them before we get
Have
here, because
questions before.
comes before we.
Which I'm
decide.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put you on the
You might want to
spot,
talk
somebody,
about the senior
you might want to,
citizen.
what's
What they
going,
do,
yeah,
when they meet.
exactly, because I think we want to know that before.
Not that it was associated with Bluegrass Ave, but this is out here with our.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
It's our local.
Well, for example, we need 2 members on the ethics.
Right.
And I've had 2 recommendations.
For the next meeting.
Get those out.
For the next meeting.
Actually, I'm sorry, I can ask Amy.
I think-
3.
Might need 3.
I'm reading these dates.
I think you had already spoken to her. The current.
No. Angela's on there right now, but she can't be.
As an elected official, right?
Correct.
Right.
two.
Well, it would be actually potentially three if you, if you,
We have to take her off, all right.
so this one, this explains you have to do this one. This one, this one.
Yeah, I can do those all three.
So if she's willing to serve, if you wanted to. That would be up to your discretion on that.
Next meeting.
You're not.
Yeah, well, we usually do, I just didn't get it. That's all I have.
Thank you. Move on to item C under new business action item. This is a task order with Strand for updating the discharge permit. Superintendent Harney, if you would mind to come to the table, please, sir. And in your packet, this is page 94. 94. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
So walk us through what this task order change and what the discharge permit means, please, sir.
Discharge permit is restricted discharge, limited discharge. It's mandated by the EPA, followed through by the state, falls upon local cities that have a pre-treatment program. You have everything from your industries, hospital, jail. There's a set of local limits that they calculate based on the type of treatment plant you got, your receiving stream, your waters. The theoretical design behind it is to protect your receiving waters, to protect your treatment plant. And then there's a more detailed fact for us, for the city here, is you don't want to have a piece of industry come into town that would discharge something that would get our KPDS permit in trouble, and then have the city taxpayers spending millions of dollars to build infrastructure to take care of a problem that they should have caught before coming out of the factory. I am all for jobs, I'm all for growth, but there's different industries that will come through, in smaller towns in particular, and hoping that you got your guard down. If you want to see a really well-run pre-treatment facility, go visit CMWA. They have basically a small wastewater plant inside their facility that discharges to us. These limits are to be reviewed every 5 years. We're about a year out to be reviewed, and then these limits go out to those that discharge to us. Arsenic, BOD, TSS, ammonia. There's several different analyticals that goes into this, and then also along with that, the waste sludge that we produce. Just a quick history lesson: the water plant can no longer make water and dump their sludge in the creek. We have to manage and mitigate it at the wastewater treatment plant. So the sludge we produce from a biological standpoint, and then taking the man-made sludge from a water plant, there's certain criteria that it has to pass in order to be taken to a landfill and not be deemed a hazardous waste. If you want to get into a super expensive ordeal, let somebody come into town and misuse their discharge limits and us find high levels of an unknown quantity in our waste sludge or in our plant. Most domestic wastewater plants do a good job at treating BOD, your ammonias, your solids. When it comes to metals and items like this, they usually don't precipitate out very well. So these are things we kind of have to keep an eye on. And we've got a list of, and Michael here with me, a pre-treatment coordinator. We've got 10 or 12 industries that are on our pre-treatment program. Some of them are monthly, some are quarterly, some are biannual. The important part is any industry that comes into town needs to fill out a pre-treatment application. Doesn't mean they're going to be put on the program. Another Premier filled out an application when they first came into Paris. There was nothing in their process that found them necessitate a pre-treatment program, but it's a good idea for us from time to time to kind of touch base with these industries and make sure that there hasn't something changed in what they're doing or the way that they're doing it that wouldn't put them in that category. So what we're proposing here today is the fee that it's going to take to have Mark Schneed from Strand come in, work with Michael Harris and I, and then work with Diana Roberts, who is the coordinator for the pre-treatment program for the Division of Water for the state, and to implement and to get accepted and passed those new limits. Clear as mud, I know.
So in 2019, the city entered into an agreement with Strand Associates to help us with a number of things, and this is a task order change to that. The original contract had set existing limits for hourly billing rates. All of these proposed rates in this task order fall below those limits that were approved in 2019. So the request from Superintendent Hardy this morning is to allow the mayor to execute task order change number 21-01 with Strand and Associates as the engineer to develop and update local limits for industrial discharges in accordance with the pollutant discharge elimination system permit. It's the pleasure of the committee. Commissioner Brooks makes the motion.
Second.
Commissioner Roberts has a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Next item D, under new business action items, the recommendation to hire an electric distribution department. And, Ms. Morton.
We had 36 applicants, and of those, we called 10 in for interviews, and interviews were conducted by Aaron Sparkman and myself. We would like to make a recommendation to hire Anthony Honey. He still needs to pass his drug screen and do his onboarding with the city manager, for electric distribution department groundsman, and this is due to a transfer in the department.
Per the recommendation from our HR director, what's the pleasure of submission? Have a motion by Brooks. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Plummer. Any questions or comments? This is the recommendation to fill the full-time electric groundsman upon passing the drug screen and the onboarding meeting. Roll
Commissioner
call.
Gibson? I'm sorry. Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, sorry. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our next item, under new business action item, is update on the CDBG grant for COVID-19. And if you'll recall, Commissioners, at the last meeting, this item came up. Commissioner Gibson had been made aware of this by one of our local citizens. I had also been made aware of it, the governor's office. Done some additional research and conversation with the ad office. Bob Casher's been great to walk us through this. And there are some certain guidelines that are required to access these funds. It is a portion of the Community Development Block Grant, which means that there are low to moderate income guidelines that must be met. It doesn't mean that you would have to fall into a low to moderate income guideline to access available funds, but 51% of the recipients would have to meet those federal designations. The funding, if this body authorized us to move forward with this, would be open only to those residents, not customers, but those residents of the city of Paris that actually live within the city limits of Paris. So we would have customers that are outside the city limits that would not qualify to avail themselves of this. They do have to prove that they are currently being impacted by COVID. That would be on the partnership side, so it would be the Bluegrass Cares that would be the agency, and also the ad district that would have to make those determinations. And they would have had to be eligible in this program. A customer would have had to receive a disconnect notice between January 21st and or up to 2 months following issue. They, if qualified, a household may be eligible up to $250 per month for 6 consecutive months. But this is residential customers only, does not allow for business customers. Spoke about the LMI guidelines. Bourbon County Fiscal Court is proceeding with their own application. That would cover our customers that live outside the city limits as well. And then this is open to any utility, whether we are the service provider or not, unless you make an application that restricts solely to a certain type of utility. For example, if you make a general broad-based application for all that would qualify, that means that Columbia Gas customers will qualify. KU customers that live within the city limits will qualify. And the funding that's available, total pot of funding under a local government entity, it's maxed at 200. So, for example, if you went that direction, there's no guarantee that combined utility customers of the city of Paris would actually receive funds based on how the application. So we can't, if you move forward, you can't say that it's restricted only to Paris combined utility customers, wide breadth. Now, however, in conversation with Mr. Casher at the ad, our local government has provided guidance that you can say that an application is only for a segment of utility. So you could say that it only qualifies for the water utility customers. And so if you do that, then it's only that portion of their bill that they would qualify for if they met all the others. So, for example, our average water customer bill may, they may not have, majority of them would not have $250 of water billings on a month, or wastewater billings on a month. More than likely that would be less than $100 a month that would be eligible if they met all the other guidelines. The other side of this is that if you go into the program, then you are restricted on your ability, if somebody qualifies and begins into the process of doing disconnects. So there is a cautionary that Mr. Casher asked me to relay, is that would be having to some of your customers, fall under one type of, if they didn't pay, that they can be disconnected. Then you have other customers that if they were in this program, and so that would be, something that we would have to move forward and figure out how to do that, come up with a plan to address that if this body wanted to move forward with this type of application. It's the checklist. We would also have to do a public meeting, a public hearing to apply. Again, under the CDBG guidelines, we have to certify our area income eligibility. We are just within the city limits, and so we can use data points from the census that we wouldn't have to, more than likely we would not have to go out and do surveys on that. We've gone through that process before when we've expanded out the county at a federal application. But I think that our current LMI guidelines within the city under the census would allow us to meet that without having to do surveys. But there's a potential that we would have to do door-to-door surveys as well. If this body wants to move forward, we just need that direction this morning. Figure out how you would like us to move forward, and we can start that process. And then at the next meeting, we would have an authorizing resolution to explore that. So it's a lot of information, and it's here, there, and yonder. And to be honest, we've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, that. And again, I want to give credit to the ad office and Bob Casher for walking us through this. So, Mr. Galbraith.
Yes. Now, if I understood correctly, we applied and were eligible to get the money. It's actually funded through Community Action, correct? They the administrator, they're the ones that see the clients, they're the ones that look at the paperwork, they're the ones that, quote, make the commitments and things like that, whether it's for the City of Paris, Kentucky Utility, Columbia Gas, or whomever. Because that, again, but that would be if the county did that, because there's Bluegrass Energy, there's all these other,
Judy Water,
Judy Water, there's all these
Water.
other Kentucky American Water and things like that out in the county that, so they being Community Action would be the
would be the,
administer.
they would administer there's actually a two-party administration outside of the local body politic that would make the application. The ad office and community action. The ad office does the administration side of putting all the application together, getting it through the clearinghouse at the state, helping us conduct the meeting. And then the application, there's a 5% administration fee that they can charge, and that is split equally between area development district and community action.
Community action. Okay, so once I go to community action and I'm eligible, let's say, and I live in part of the city, and I live out on Crescent Lane or someplace where I live. So I'm on KU for electric and I'm on city for water. Then I would be handled differently than if I lived inner city and had water, sewer, and electric all supplied to the city, so.
That correctly. And so what would happen in that case is that if a utility customer would actually certify that they met community action, go through the process to certify the utility customer, and then they would look at, okay, here's my disconnect notice from KU because I haven't paid, so I'm eligible for X number of dollars on that. And then here's my disconnect notice from Paris Combined Utilities, and so I'm eligible for X number of dollars based on towards
As long as it doesn't exceed $250.
Total, yes, right.
Okay.
And that's per household, you know, for that. And so it's not, you know, it's not per person in the household and so on, but that's where the fee goes to community action to do all of that administration side of things.
I say, we've got no determination. Yeah or nay?
Right, that is, that falls under community action to make that determination and certify. Now, just a cautionary, as under any CDBG grant, it ultimately falls back to the local government to certify anything that's been done on their behalf.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. Right.
But the county is moving forward.
The county.
Right. And so, again, as I understand it, county application, if this body makes an application as well, the county's application would then cover any Paris combined utilities, for our purposes, that live outside of the city limits. And it wouldn't be that they would have an application come in to community action for residents of the city of Paris and under our funding, and then they could double dip and get county funding, spotted money. Either it doesn't work that way. It is that household is maximum of 250. And again, that household has to meet, you know, the certain assurances, and they have to provide, you know, that. So it begins to narrow down the actual pool of eligible people. But I do think there's value in exploring moving forward, for even if it is a small number of folks.
But if we did nothing, the county's application would cover everything.
If they wrote it that way. It's not, yeah.
Well, at only 200.
We can't double up on the money, so it would be a $200,000 cap for them. And so that $200,000 could go, just if you leave it open for just the county, it could all go outside the city limits, and Paris combined utility customers may not get anything.
Well, if county applies, they get 200, the city applies, they get 200, correct?
Yes.
Each entity is a separate application and a separate approval, so in theory, the county could end up with 400,000 if we apply.
Well,
County.
qualifying household,
The county.
yeah, qualifying households would have a pool of potential of $400,000 to withdraw.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Up to.
I wouldn't want to do
I mean, there's just, again, I think that there's value in moving forward with it. There's no financial obligation on the city, direct financial. Now, there's indirect, because there is going to require some work, whether we apply or not, if, you know, by our utility customer service reps, and then us having to also figure out, and one of the things that I didn't mention is that we have certain areas of our system, of our assets in our system that have been helped by federal funds. And so there's a a formula that we have to deduct that out as well. So it's not as simple as, Darren Jordan has an outstanding Paris combined utility bill of $200. I go to community action, I meet the guidelines, and okay, I want, for 6 months I can get, the max I can get. We internally, any utility internally has to come up with the actual valuation of that cost on that bill. For example, I'll pick on Kentucky American, it's really in the weeds, but they're a for-profit business. So they have to deduct out all their profit margin out of the bill, and the only portion of their bill that's reimbursable to them is the actual cost of the service. So, again, it's not easy, but I think that there's value in exploring.
Yeah, block
We
grants
need
do
to
require block
move forward. We need.
So then what we'll do is I will work with Ad District, and we'll come back with a resolution at the next meeting to make application on this. Thank you. Our next item is a request to make an application for the Assistance to Firefighter Grant. Chief Duffy?
Yes, this is a grant we're applying for some PPE SCBA's for the firemen. The total grant application is for $390,818.25. If we are awarded the grant, our cost of that would be $18,610.39. All the rest of it obviously paid by the FEMA grant. We worked with Commissioner Roberts, helped me out considerably on that. Mr. Jordan went through a lot of it with us. My guys did, I'm gonna go with probably 95% of the work themselves on trying to get this accomplished. So due on Friday off the top of my head. So we just want to get approval just to let you all know about it, and then get approval to submit that to FEMA.
So you've heard the request. It's the wish of this body to allow Chief Duffy, Plummer, and myself to execute any and all necessary documents required to make the application for the FEMA grant. Motion by Gibson, a second by Roberts. Any additional questions or comments? This is a very competitive grant. Appreciate the department's work.
Is it all or nothing, or can you get portions of that?
It's all or nothing.
It's all or nothing, okay, all right.
Typically, yes. They do have the opportunity, based on funding from personal experience in previous communities where we were able to secure those, that they can come back and say, hey, we don't have the total amount that you requested, would you accept a lesser amount? And then the match on that is then prorated down.
Yeah, roughly 5% match or something, so you match 100 there, if you get 100, you match it at $5,000 or something.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts? Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank
The
you.
new business action items come before the body this morning. We'll move on to financial businesses. And Mr. Overlander, again, page 101 is the start of our financial section in your packet. Combined utility outstanding accounts.
Yeah, so the first thing we'll go over is what we've been seeing over the last couple of months on the utilities, and seeing some good news on just the overall account numbers and everything. So as you'll see up there at the top, even though the commercial clients number had increased, and one thing to keep in mind when I do the month-end calculation, if anybody is past due, like in the 90 days, I also throw in their current balance. So that's why the numbers and stuff are a little bit higher, and usually the mid-month is a little bit better test of where we actually are on the true past due numbers and everything. But you'll see commercial customers, we did have an increase up to 60 past due, but the residentials actually had a significant decrease from 735 down to 476 from the end of December to the end of January. And then kind of looking at the just overall breakdown, you'll see from a residential standpoint, as of December 31st, we had a total of 369,000, almost 370,000 that was past due, listed out there, but that all dropped down to 229,000 at the end of January, and all that. And so, some good numbers on the residential part. You know, like I said, on the commercial side of it, timing is kind of everything with them. Some of them just kind of like to wait till the last of the month to make some payments, and then also to just kind of rolling in their current balances led into that increase and everything. So moving on to the next page on kind of the receivable analytics, you'll see at the end of January, our overall delinquent customers dropped down to 10%. Overall, even though our cash collection, or our average days to collect is still really high, it actually came down some there in January, and I think we'll probably even start kind of seeing that level off a little bit closer to 40 days here in the month of February as well too. With everything, advertising that we have done, flyers and everything that we've sent out, I think there was only about $1,100 that was probably only 5 or 6 that actually took advantage of any kind of a prepaid discount at that point in time. So the $8,000 that you kind of see from the late fee collected is anything, you know, after everything we've done to kind of get everybody to pay their bills and everything on time. So we are kind of back into collecting the penalties and late fees on that part of the bills and everything. So I mean, all in all, you can see just kind of a general decrease in the receivable balance. We're at 1.3 million there at the end of December, down to 1.26 or 1.2 million at the end of January. So just some numbers to kind of point out for you guys there.
Any questions of Brad on the utility fund outstanding accounts receivable?
It was good that the actual number, it dropped 35% from December to January.
Yeah.
That's really a positive number, but again, there's still 175 out there that are 90+ days past due. That's still some heartache out there for somebody. Because I'm telling you, this is not the time that you need to be behind, you need your utilities cut off, and various things like that. It's just, we've made progress.
Any questions on that? No? Anyone move to approval of payment of invoices?
Sure. On page 103, you'll see the general fund listing of payables that have been issued through since our last meeting through February 9th. The total that we'll need approval for is $121,526.81. And then moving on to page 104, city utility fund. The total on there is $180,060.45.
For the presentation of the payment of invoices due payables, what's the pleasure of this commission? Have a motion by Brooks.
I'll second.
Second by Galbraith. Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, Ms. Morton, have roll call, please.
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts? Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And accounts payable, correct?
Yeah, just the listing for the accounts payable, you'll see general fund starts on page 105 and goes to 107. The total listing at this point in time was $55,886.45. And then on the utility fund side, that will go from page 108 to 111. The total you'll see there on 111 is $101,968.97.
Any questions for Mr. Overlander on that information? Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Move on to our report section. You have at the back of your packet, commissioners, there's the mayor, several monthly reports from internal and external. The first one, you do see the numbers from the Bourbon County Senior Center. Continue to provide meals for the month, and it's a very needed. See but the increases in from their services. You have Ms. Morton's report on page 113. Ms. Morton, is there anything that you tell in that?
I don't have anything extra today.
The next one is the police department report for January. Chief Thomas, anything about your report that you want to point? Next one, Chief Duffy on the reported activities. And from the fire department, you'd like to report out?
No, sir.
We also have in there the water treatment plant. Want to make note that we operate the plant in January an average of 20 hours per day. And the previous report showed 19 hours a day. And so we are running almost around the clock continuously. And part of our asset management, is looking at it and the needs that becomes of that. And then that Superintendent Smart had about his risk and resilient plan and the EA, emergency response plan have both been certified. And so we have his water loss calculation, last period of 21%. Just general peruse on the power plant. Mike, you want to talk about capacity testing?
I will, yes. In our contract with KYMEA, we get credit for having capacity that in the event of an emergency, we would come online and generate 11 megawatts of electricity. And per that contract, we have to start the generators up and run them twice a year. Once in the summertime when it's extremely hot, and the other time is in the winter when it's relatively cold. We did that, and everything worked, and we're online to receive our credit as usual this coming year. All went well.
And that's important to note because the credit that we receive of that is a direct pass back into our utility customers on the rates that we charge them. Major cost savings back to not only the city but directly back to our customers. Yes? We are not as, we're not as susceptible on that because we're not as online and connected on that. So we're more, like manually operationals. So we're not as up to date on some of that, but
That's good.
But yeah, but no, we do have, yeah.
It's not like that.
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good question. Then Pat's in there from wastewater, and he still working on the repair switch. So that is water distribution and wastewater collections from Donnie and his crew over there. Sparky's, and Superintendent Smith's monthly report is included as well. Speaking to Public Works, they are on alert. We do have some potential. I know there's a 2 o'clock national weather briefing this afternoon about upcoming. We do have about 300 tons of salt in our shed, but we are going to be proactive and have authorized Superintendent Smith to go ahead and make an order another 100 tons so we don't get caught off. Roughly one pass of the city because of a switch out that we did to salt spreaders a couple of years ago made us more efficient. It's about 35, 37 tons a city pass. So every 3 times we have to pass through our routes, it takes about 100 tons. So, which we were 70 to 80 tons on a pass just a couple of years ago, and making some investments into more efficient salt spreaders allowed us to use that. So. Andrea, is there anything that you wanted to speak to this morning?
I'll be really brief. I'm working on wrapping up our 2020 annual report, and I'm looking forward to presenting that to you all at the next meeting. Otherwise, the Planning Commission met on the comp plan last week. Many of you participated either in person or virtually. I apologize for the virtual poor connection. In person, the acoustics in that courtroom are not ideal, so naturally it was going to be difficult to make it out online. But thank you for attending that. I'm also looking forward to a future presentation on the comprehensive plan for you all to consider. So that's all I have today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks.
Brian?
Yeah, so just to tag along with something Andrew's been working on. So last year, we did the joint code enforcement statutes a couple years ago. So what's really now back in the city's court is to designate the ordinance here through the procedure, excuse me. So some things are easy, like they might fall under the National Property Maintenance Code. Might not quite be hazardous, that can get an immediate closure order by the fire chief, but with that, so Andrew's question really is, what is the city going to designate to that joint board? See, and so we've had a couple discussions, and most recently between Ms. Lacey and the county attorney and myself. A lot of our nuisance ordinance, but also include the animals section in that, and then there's a few other sections are ancient. They're dated 1981, but I don't even think they were written. I think they were prior to that. So this is a great opportunity to sit down and kind of make a whole rewrite of the nuisance section. Some of them have been updated. We deal with chronic nuisance properties, which are kind of like high crime targets. Something like that. Other parts of the noise ordinance addressed 6 or 7 years ago, but it really kind of needs a wholesale fresh look to that. So I would just ask one or two of you all just kind of volunteer to help. You all really need to drive this in terms of what's the policy of the city. We prohibit swine from being herded in the streets. I'm not sure that's still a problem. Probably not a bad ordinance, but so there's just some updating that we can address here. And again, there's so this is a big project, so I don't. Now I'm kind of need some help. I can guide you. We can look at several different more recent ordinances that have been addressed, and then some of this language has to be approved. It's just ancient. So I would just ask for one or two of you all to work. Knock this out in 6 days. You all will have to determine what exactly is going to fall under the board, and Andrew will be involved. It's a very, very involved process. All right, one volunteer. All right, thank you. We'll send them some reading. All right.
Swine.
Yes. Swine.
You can have them, you just can't hurt them.
What about lambs? Because I do
Anything else, Mr. Bowen?
No, that's all.
Brad, did you have anything else?
No.
I didn't have any additional, well, I did, a legislative update. Just so you're aware, there's some legislation that went before committee last week. PLC is following that closely, but it does have some negative connotations to your ability to set policies and procedures. So it takes away what's known as home rule. And so we're very aware and keep abreast of that. I have, corresponded with Representative Cook, and he is in agreement that he had some other issues, but beyond just what our express were. And so he is aware of that as well. So we did want to keep you updated on that. But KLC is good about sending out legislative updates, so we check that out. But there are a couple of others that we are closely watching. They have asked for us to consider also adopting a resolution in support of vision of the state tax code in relation to motor fuel tax. Those that have served a number of years on this body will know that this, not too long ago, $250,000 annually back into the city for road pavement, motor fuel tax. This last year we were, what, 77, I think, is what that has dropped. So there's major discussion going on in Frankfurt, the revision of that. And so Kelsey has asked this body to consider adopting a supporting resolution on that. And so I'll talk between now and this meeting and see how we wish to move forward. Commissioner Gibson, you have anything? Commissioner Galbraith?
It just reminded me when Brian was talking about that, about the property maintenance code, and I just wondered how often is the property maintenance code updated on a, let's say a state level and locally and what have you. Andrew, do you have any idea about property maintenance code? I know we adopt, I know.
You probably asked me or Mike with her.
I do.
The,
It is not a code that you annually update. We are in an older version.
I was gonna say, I thought it was 06 or something.
we do.
Yeah,
But it meets our needs and.
okay, all right, so there's not that many changes that,
Census
okay.
standard that is followed in the industry.
But when
A
you
lot of
brought,
people have it, I think more people keep the second oldest one as a more recent.
okay.
But the last one
Yeah.
was 2016, is that right?
Honestly, I 2016 is the last one I had seen, but what you dabble with when you adopt the newer codes is that they're added to. So you add more requirements and regulations that we have a hard time enforcing what we have on the books as it is. So that's where the reasoning behind keeping an older code.
Version we have.
But it's the international property maintenance code is what we adopt, and then you all have the nuisance ordinance that goes above and beyond the property maintenance code.
And the international property maintenance code is written also by the people that write the Kentucky building code and the Kentucky residential code. They are in the business of selling code books.
And they add to and add to and add to. and
It's very similar to
can't
this
keep up
book
with
right
it.
here that we've got, that it looks like,
Even bigger than that, they would love you to redo it every year.
Sure.
And
I bet they
publish
would
it
do.
entirely in the paper before you adopt it.
No, it made me think about that. And then one of the other things that Commissioner Brooks just brought up was about the hack down in Florida and it made, and again, we're following through. I know one of the other ideas that we've been talking about is following through the cameras and some other infrastructure, and adding to our asset list and things like that. So, that becomes more important now that we keep that going because again, try to cut down some knucklehead out here trying to do something that, I don't understand, but anyway. And the other thing is, I know the next time, we have meetings quite often, and I say we, the city, have meetings quite often with young guys from Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, but, there's beginning to, and I know they've gone through and filled in some of the potholes, but there's getting to be the weather is causing some real potholes, particularly on Main Street and some other areas, so if they can get on their subs, or whether it's that comes through Walker or what is it, RLA, or now it's I don't know who's.
It would be.
Columbia Gas, I don't know.
There's multiple parties.
Yeah, I don't know. Party of the first part, party of the second part, or whatever.
Right.
But if they'll just kind of police those a little bit, that's all I have.
Mr. Roberts? Mr. Brooks?
Just, I guess we met with the county judge executive. Good meeting, with the mayor, myself, and Nick. Things are going see how the city can be involved, because the city does not want to be involved. I want to get them sooner than later. See what we need to do.
You're chairing a meeting this
I'm
afternoon?
chairing a meeting this afternoon.
For the joint parks.
Joint Parks, yeah.
Monthly meeting.
That,
Legion Hall, 2:30.
Yes. Mayor?
I just reminded my citizen that there's an ordinance, we need to clean our sidewalks off, so I just want to make the community aware. And it's 24 hours.
After a snow or ice event, you're supposed to clear your walkway.
So I just want to make everybody aware of that. That's all I have.
Speaking of that,
Yes.
if I can just go
Sure.
back. So how is the sidewalk, that we talked about last meeting? Repairing, yeah. Going anywhere, are we tabling that for a while?
No, we're still looking at, Mr. Bowman and I haven't had an opportunity to meet again since that last, but we are still continuing to look at it, as that as an option and how that, and so I would anticipate, being able to, something in March to bring forward. Yep. 'Cause that's definitely going to be important as part of our, we'd like to move forward with that as part of our budgetary. We have a motion for adjournment. Brooks, second by Galbert. Ms. Moore, would you have roll call, please?
Commissioner Gibson?
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Roberts? Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Mayor Plummer?
Yes.
Thank you.
A little slow on that, were we?
I'm trying to write everything